Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. I'm here on a very rainy day in Ubud. We're in the middle of rainy season, and the internet's still going, so that's a good sign. So what I want to share with you today is a model of consciousness that I've been using for around 10 years. And it's fundamental to all the work that we do together. It's a model, it's not a truth. It's a great map that helps you navigate and chart your course and helps you when you get lost to find out where you are and where to go. So from that respect, it's a very valuable tool. So let me get a picture of that for you. Move that to there. Okay, so this is the fundamental model without all the accoutrements, and it's a basic model that I used and navigated with for healing trauma. So the circles, the concentric circles, are the field of awareness or the field of experience. So when you enter the felt sense, you'll be aware of physical sensation, potentially thought, energy, potentially your mood, your attitude, and emotions. Many different flavors, many different phenomena are available to us through this felt sense. And generally for most, it's subconscious. So we're entering the subconscious field when we connect with ourselves. So the invitation with this model is not expecting anybody to fully understand it, and you may fully understand it. It doesn't really matter where you are with it. The model is here, the diagram is here, and the video is here for you to review should you need to. What I would invite rather is that you engage with this video by feeling into your felt sense and listening from there. Thus, if you're listening to this talk and something in you says, I don't know what she's talking about, that is what you need to engage with. What does it feel like, the thought, I don't know what she's talking about? So that's the journey that's being called for right now in the present moment. It's not about getting what I'm saying. It's about meeting yourself through self-referral. And this is what self-referral is that every engagement is an opportunity to find out what's going on for you. So that's my invitation. So you should be able to relax now because you don't have to get it. So these layers, if you will, like layers of an onion, are just different. They have different frequencies, and you know they are everything from low frequency to high frequency, or from dense to light. It's all here right now. And we're learning this language of energy, so having a model is valuable, and having a way of talking about it is really valuable also. So in the center of the model is the big blue dot, and this is grace. That's where grace lives. That's emptiness. That's self with the capital S. It's sometimes called the ground of being. It has many names. It's called death as a state of consciousness. It's called the I am, and there are many layers and levels to the I am. It has many names, but no name can describe it. And it's really what we're cultivating here. Is the intention of this group is cultivating grace, and you'll see why. So as you enter the felt sense, you're entering the subconscious mind, and you have an opportunity by doing so to meet memories or trauma that are stuck within the subconscious mind. And the effect of them being there is that they limit you. They're creating a limited version of you. They're unresolved experiences that didn't go home. So the blue dot, or grace, you could think of as home. And the nervous system gets stuck when we get overwhelmed, so when something is very traumatic. And some of that traumatic material is personal, and some of it is pre-conscious, and some of it is transpersonal. So the personal might be that you have a conscious memory of it. The pre-conscious may be something that happened before the age of 2, or in the womb at birth, perhaps, or even at conception. And the transpersonal would be the ancestral stuff that happened to your parents and the generations before that wasn't resolved and is a proclivity in you. So, and this can also be past life. So that's the transpersonal side. So there are often things that happen in our life right now that have their roots in something transpersonal. In fact, I found that to be generally the case. So when we find something, we're actually endeavoring to go beyond the little story that we know about whatever's happening and move into the energetic story, which will take us to its deepest origin. So now we have rain and wind. So that was the banging of a door. So, and the deepest origin of everything is emptiness, or the absolute, which is the blue dot. So this is actually, if you think about it, this is good news, because what we can deduce is that the origin of all trauma is just purely that we left ourself, capital S. So the blue dot is self, capital S, it's source, it's the infinite, it's God. These are all names for the same place, and they all can conjure up different things. So once we understand that all trauma originates because we left there, then the task becomes obvious to return there. What I found in my own journey was that trauma healing was very engaged in a dualistic way of saying, I have a problem, something happened to me and I need to fix it. And this actually worked to a point for me anyway, and I was called to go deeper. And the work of spirituality is often to return to self, to emptiness, and stay there. And it's a bypass. It's a one-way journey back to emptiness with a disregard for how to engage in life. So both paths, the spiritual path and the healing path, have informed this model and this technology that I'm sharing with you. Just to add more flavor to this description. So the piece that's missing from the non-dual spiritual teachings is embodiment. And embodiment is the return, if you will, back to the world. So it's the birth. So death is taking whatever you find back to its source, emptiness. And embodiment is returning with emptiness and engaging in the world, in life, in a very simple way. So note that I send returning with emptiness. It's not a disconnect with a new realization about what you discovered when you went and lost that trauma. It's a returning and emerging without a disconnect from self. So you could say the goal of this work is the realization through direct experience of emptiness, stillness as a doorway in the whole body, and the emergent flavor of a unique self that arrives out of that emptiness as you, unencumbered by trauma, unencumbered by a past, So that's being fully in the present moment. So this, give me a moment here. So I see that as a birth, that arriving as you. And in the arriving journey, we can get sidetracked. In the arriving, instead of arriving as the light that we are and being integrated in the light that we are, we can get sidetracked by other trauma. Yeah? So birth and death here are really states of consciousness, and the light arrives at birth. So the next piece is this field of perception, and it's also arising out of the emptiness right now. Is this sense of I, or sense of me, and it's the looker. And the looker generally lives in the head and is observing. It's the observer or the witness, and it's observing the field of experience. It's looking at the canvas and seeing the trauma. And the looker is usually unnoticed, and often unnoticeable, because you are the looker looking. And so it's hard to look back and see who's looking. But that's exactly what we're going to do. So I've always been interested in the causal level and the causal layer that creates trauma. And so knowing that everything arises out of emptiness or source is this, grand realization that allows you to recognize that the task is to return everything back there. And you're healing yourself and the ancestors when you do so. And we also are being called to return this identity, this perceiver. And this isn't really acknowledged in many spiritual traditions. It's, you get to the witness and you get a pure witness, and that's it. But this really is a deeper level and a deeper layer, and it's about embodying and wholeness and integration. So you are the energy living life in flow. To make this complete, the field of perception, I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit muddled up with the banner at the top, which you can find through the sense of self and the identity work that we're going to do later on. And the spiritual question and the exploration, who am I, is another way to lead you there. That I, that identity, that separation, that's looking at me, also can return home, back to emptiness. And this is very, very powerful for healing, because the identities that we've created are holding our trauma. So rather than healing the 10,000 traumas that you might have, by healing an identity, you can collapse a whole nest of trauma in one go. Yeah. So what happened to me many years ago was that I had a realization of emptiness. This is back in 1991, that I couldn't integrate that realization. And because I couldn't integrate that realization, I became very sick, as the part of the two me's, the one who knew who I was, emptiness, and the one who was still attached to everything else that made up my life, had to merge and come together. And this has been what I've been doing for 30 years to bring this work into the world through my own experience of my own journey. So, doing too much too fast can flood you and re-traumatize you. And doing not enough keeps you stuck somewhere. So there is a harmonious and way of balance that allows us to keep growing and remain safe. And that really I've brought those pieces into this work to support people on this journey. So as the experience and the experiencer integrate into emptiness, you become yourself, integrated and embodied. Okay? And so we're going to talk about that further as we continue on this path. So yeah, that's an introduction. There is more models and more pieces that I will share with you as we continue. But if you have any questions or wish to make a comment, please do so in the right place, and I will see you soon.